And now in our 15th season, your hosts for Candlepin Stars and Strikes, Dick Lutz and Mike Moore.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Dick Lutz with Mike Morin, and we climb the ladder. It's week 2 of our 6th ladder series. Last week, we saw a battle between the Morgan brothers, and Brother Tom survived.
Well, Brother Tom survived, but both Morgans are here today. It's Coach Mike Morgan and bowler Tom Morgan against Dorchester's Dan Lasko.
Let's meet our bowlers in this second match of this 6th ladder series. Last week's winner in the battle of the Morgan brothers, Brother Tom from Lynn, Massachusetts.
Well, this is his, I think, 5th appearance this year, so you probably know the stats as well or better than I do, but here they are. Tommy's average at 129, his high single, 192. High triple is 490, and Metro Bowl in Peabody, Mass. is where Tom Morgan does his league bowling along with his brother Mike.
And he'll climb up the ladder to meet the 3rd seed, Dan Lasko, who rolled a 652 in the roll-off to earn his number 3 seeding in this ladder series.
And this is his very first appearance on WNDS's Candlepin Stars and Strikes, so he comes in with an average of 121. High single is also 192, the same as Tom Morgan. High triple of 486, our number 3 seed. Bowls in Dorchester, Mass. at Lucky Strike Lane, so it's an all-Boston area second week in the ladder.
And we're looking for another participant in the Tournament of Champions at the end of the year, and one of these bowlers would certainly like to join that elite group. We're back with this afternoon's match with Tom Morgan and Dan Lasko from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire, when we continue with Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV right after this. There you see the ladder as we began last week with Tom Morgan defeating Brother Mike, and climbing the ladder this week, taking on number 3 seed Dan Lasko with Phil Bergstrom and Sean Baker waiting in the wings, with the ultimate winner advancing to the Tournament of Champions at the end of the season. It'll be Tom Morgan first to bowl in this afternoon's match with Dan Lasko.
Missing the head pin right off the bat, leaving the 1, the 9, and the 10. 2 pieces of wood on the deck.
Almost picked it up, sent the ball right through the 9 and the 10. And he'll start out with a 9 box. A 388 last week for Tom, beating Brother Mike, who had a 382.
Tom doing most of his real damage in the first string when he fired off a 151 game.
Now Tom grabs the head pin but leaves a split in the second frame. During the course of the match, we'll continue reading letters that we've received from you over the past several weeks, and we encourage you to write to us and let us know what you're thinking and where you are watching from. Our address is Candlepin Stars and Strikes, WNDS TV, Derry, New Hampshire. 50 Television Place in Derry, and that will be a 7 box for Tom Morgan, as the ball went in the gutter first before popping out, so he'll start with a 16. And the zip code in Derry, of course, is 03038. And we do appreciate you taking the time to jot down some of your thoughts. As Lasko's first ball, a contrast in styles, as you see right off the bat. Dan's first time on Channel 50, not his first time on TV. He appeared on the old Channel 5 show 9 times over the course of the years, and he starts off with a 9 box. "34 years old, a produce selector for U.S. Food Service in Everett. Married to Nancy for 14 years, a couple of children, daughter Ashley 13, son Justin 10 years old. And he throws a ball with a lot of spin on it.
Definite 10-pin style as far as the release and the right to left rotation of the ball.
Both bowlers will be open in the first 2 frames. Want to acknowledge a couple of letters that we received. One letter, again, we addressed the issue last week. Carl Can from Melrose, Massachusetts, writes, and Michael, I'll let you address it one more time. The issue of the lob has come up once again.
Well, you've got a line out near the arrows about, I don't remember the exact distance, 10 to 15 feet from the foot foul line, and your ball has to touch the lane before it gets to that line, or it's declared a dead ball. And if that's the case, then you have to take 0 for that particular part of the frame, or reshoot if it's your first ball. Occasionally it does happen. You might see it once in a while on television. We do not have a foul line judge because we don't feel that it's a recurring problem. If it is, the bowlers address it between themselves and do it very discreetly and quietly.
Which brings up the issue a couple of people have written in, remembering the old Channel 5 show
Sure.
where they did have a lob line judge, and we do not, and the bowlers don't feel it's necessary.
No. I think everybody would remember Ralph Stewart and his colorful Argyle socks. That was his trademark. He would also chase the pins that would come out of play. Kind of surprised Tom didn't go for the 4-7 over on the left-hand side, as he'll probably do on the spare here. That would have made it.
Shot.
Be curious to know what he was thinking on that. Well, it's still early, but he got out of the box quickly last week, as we mentioned, with 151.
In any case, we're back to the lob. We thank Mr. Carl Can from Melrose for writing in and for watching Candlepin Stars and Strikes. Also want to acknowledge a letter we received from Phil and Nancy Bancroft of Sudbury, Massachusetts. Mr. Bancroft writes that he teaches at Bentley College. During taping times, he's been unable to make our taping sessions and regrets that, but is a faithful watcher. We appreciate his letter and the constructive criticisms that he enclosed with his letter.
Doesn't like our ties?
Among other things. But it's always nice to hear from you. We do appreciate it very much. Missing the head pin is Lasko. You're right, the 10-pin style, the twisting of the wrist at the release of the ball. When you watch the 10-pin bowlers on TV, they almost all, 99% of them, have a hook in their ball. I think 1 or 2 over the years that I can remember shoots it directly at the head pin.
Yeah, somebody like a Billy Hardwick didn't have much of a tail on his ball. And a few others actually back in the 50s threw backup balls, which is a ball that goes from left to right. You never see that. The lane conditions are such in 10-pin right now that you can get the ball to break almost 20 boards. You get it all the way out to the gutter, and in the last 10 feet it snaps right back in, leaving some of the most bizarre split combinations because the equipment is so different nowadays, the balls, the way they're constructed, and the lane maintenance and the dressing is very, very conducive to high scores. But if you're not in the zone, you get some very strange leaves.
I have seen some 10-pin bowlers throw the ball, have the ball leave their hand at such an incredible angle going toward the gutter.
Right, from the far left.
And it gets to that, it seems to hang over the gutter before it comes back in.
And occasionally you will see a gutter ball with the 10-pin bowlers, because they have such a very narrow area of error of margin. So I'm going to guess, I don't know Dan very well, but I'm going to bet he's got some 10-pin bowling in his background somewhere on his resume.
Well, both bowlers are without marks through the first 4 boxes of our first string in this match. And Lasko has a 1-pin lead. Tom Morgan, a 5-10 split. He made a 5-7 split last week without Deadwood, just sliding, cutting the 5-pin into the 7.
Turns out that may have been the winning spare for him because he only won by 6 pins.
$10, a 46.5 for Tom Morgan. Quite a contrast from the 151 first string he had last week. Again, missing the head pin. The 1, 2, 4, and 9.
Should mention that Tom won the mixed doubles series back in January with his partner Peggy Tosi. And this is his 5th appearance this season since September on WNDS's Candlepin Stars and Strikes. Saw him 7 times last year, 5 times this year.
$9. He remains markless, 55 through 6. And Tom getting high fives from his family in the front row, nieces, nephews, aunts and uncles, all here from the North Shore. Lasko in the pocket that time, leaving the solid 5-pin.
Could this be our first mark of the game?
Yes, it is. First mark goes to Dan Lasko in the 5th box of the first string. Dan's been bowling 18 years. Puts a 4 in the spare with a spread eagle. Bowls out of the Lucky Strike lanes in Dorchester. A high triple of 486, high single 192. Look at this, look at this. It will not go.
Saw Kevin Davis make it a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact. A spread eagle.
10 box, a 6-pin lead for Dan Lasko after 6 boxes. Watch it again as he almost made the spread eagle. Sliding that pin, banging it off the wall, coming back, taking 2 and just that close to making a great spare. Now Tom Morgan looks at a very unusual split.
Got 2/3 of the spread eagle right there.
Oh, missed the head pin.
Both bowlers struggling in the early stages. This is week 2 of the 4-week ladder. Ladder number 6 for the 6th and final position in the Tournament of Champions that you'll see starting next month. First broadcast of the Tournament of Champions will be Sunday, April 18th.
Morgan on the head pin that time. Can he get it to go? Breaks up the split, which may or may not be to his advantage the way the wood is sitting down there. I think it's not going to hurt him.
If he can get some of that other wood to kind of hustle on over.
Now hitting the 3-pin is key right here. Missed it.
Oops. You can see clearly he wanted to go to the left-hand side instead of trying to go on the inside of the 310 configuration.
That'll take it. 73 for Tom through 8 without a mark in the first string. I'm going to tell you about the Kahala Chinese Restaurant and Lounge right next door to Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Terrific luncheon and dinner buffets. The luncheon buffet is every day, Monday through Saturday, 11:45 to 2. The dinner buffet Thursday, 5 to 8. Sunday, 12 noon to 8 p.m. Another 9-pin drop for Dan Lasko, leaving a solid 5-pin. How about trying strange flavor sliced chicken? How does that sound,
Ooh,
Michael?
I like that.
Tender chicken breast, pan fried with pea pods, baby corn, bamboo shoots, water chestnuts, and red pepper strips in the special Szechuan spicy sauce. Sounds good to me. One of the featured dishes at the Kahala Chinese Restaurant and Lounge, right next door to Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire.
They're open right now, in fact.
Open right now as you watch Candlepin Stars and Strikes as Lasko misses the spare. And every time we come to Leda Lanes, we head over to the Kahala. We'll be heading over there momentarily after this match. And we really do enjoy it. Terrific service, terrific food, great atmosphere. You will enjoy the Kahala Chinese Restaurant and Lounge right next door to Leda Lanes. If you're coming from the south, take exit 7W off the Everett Turnpike. From the north, it's exit 8. And look for Leda Lanes, and the Kahala is right next door. Open every day. If you'd like to call for more information or for a takeout order, it's 889-5200, the area code 603-889-5200. Open daily at 11:30 a.m. the Kahala Chinese Restaurant and Lounge.
What a great price on that all-you-can-eat lunch buffet at only $5.95. How do they make any money on that?
We know from experience it is terrific. Lasko missed the spare, and he's not at all happy about it as you see him contemplate his missed shot.
Well, he's missed 2 of the 3 5-pins that he's left for spare shots.
He has an 8-pin lead over Tom Morgan. 1 mark in the first string. It belongs to Lasko. Now Morgan in the 8th frame. On the head pin. Breaks up a split. Not as easy as it looks. Makeable, but not as easy as it looks. Like I said, not as easy as it looks. That'll be an 8 box for Tom Morgan. He's at 81 through 8.
He needs 19 pins to even hit 100, which is a mark and a 9 fill. Well, this would be a good time to do that.
He bounced that one down, and he leaves a 5-pin.
There it is.
He'll mark in the 10th frame. First mark of the first string for Tom Morgan. It comes in the last box. 91 plus a ball.
That was a For Your Pride spare. Have a shot at 100.
Well, the saving grace for Tom is that Dan has been struggling as well. Yeah. On the head pin, it will be a 6-pin fill, a 97 first string for Tom Morgan. Dan Lasko is at 81 through 8. Lasko missing the head pin. 4 horsemen right side remain.
1, 3, 6 in the 10.
Marks have been tough to come by in this first string. Lasko will leave the 10-pin standing. Dan frustrated. You can tell by his body English. That'll be a 10 box. 91 through 9. Tom finished with a 97. So anything above a 6 will give Lasko a lead going to the second string. A little thin on the head pin, but he has an 8-pin drop and a couple of pins to convert for a spare. The 2 and the 7 remain standing for Dan Lasko.
And some wood that should give him an opportunity to make it any number of ways. He just hits the 2-pin.
Missed the 2-pin. It still stands.
Both bowlers missing their share of makeable spares this game.
Makes for an interesting match.
In sharp contrast to last week's shootout.
A 10 box. He finished with 5 10s in a row and a 101 for Dan Lasko. A 4-pin lead for Lasko going to the second string, with Tom Morgan trailing going to the middle string of this 3-string match on Candlepin Stars and Strikes from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. We continue on WNDS TV. Dan Lasko will be first to bowl in the second string of this match with Tom Morgan on Candlepin Stars and Strikes from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Dick Lutz with Mike Morin. A 4-pin lead for Lasko. A 101 to 97. Neither bowler setting the world on fire in that first string. Lasko starts out with a pocket shot, breaks up the 5. The 7 surrounded. Other still stands.
Side spin that he gets gives him some really good action. If he hits just a real thin hit on the head pin, usually gets some pretty good action, and that worked real well for him that frame.
Spare to start the second string. You'll probably see both bowlers bowl 140, 150 in the second string after struggling in that first string.
A lot of sparring, but not much punching, if you can draw a boxing analogy, I guess.
Lasko a little thin, missing the head pin, but getting good action, and it's an 8 in the spare.
A nice fill, but a tougher spare to make than had the 2-pin stayed up. I want to talk to everybody about the 11th annual Easter Sunday Classic. Now, if you're watching this on Sunday, the first broadcast is March 28th, which makes Sunday the 4th, Easter Sunday, and there's a big money tournament every year here at Leda Lanes. It's a single scratch tournament, $5,000 guaranteed first prize. A lot of money at stake, and all the bowlers you see on Candlepin Stars and Strikes and lots of others that perhaps you've never seen before will be here. If you'd like to get in and enter, the cost is $150. You will bowl, I believe it's 20 strings, starting at noon, and you have to have your entry in by Good Friday, which would be April the 2nd. The number here at Leda Lanes, area code 603-889-4884 for the 11th annual Easter Sunday Classic, $5,000 first prize scratch single tournament.
And Tom Morgan picks up a spare to start off the second string. matching the mark put on the board by Dan Lasko to start his second string. I want to thank John Slow Sr. from Medford, Massachusetts, for sending in a copy of an article, a bowling primer by Susan Orlean, which I think was sent to us a couple of weeks back, was it not?
Yes, we did get another copy of that. But thank you again. When you see something regarding bowling in a publication, or you have some memorabilia around the house you'd like to make a copy of, send it along. Gives us a little more history of the game that we can share with some of our newer viewers.
Back-to-back marks by Tom Morgan to start off the second string.
Mike Morgan is nonstop John back here, giving encouragement and coaching suggestions.
It's like Angelo Dundee in the corner.
Yes.
Lasko on the head pin. Leaves a tough shot.
And that's the problem with that right to left side spin. When he gets a little bit too far on the left side, even hitting the head pin, the ball just keeps going and leaves a lot more pins, whereas a straight ball maybe wouldn't have left quite as many.
That's the 5, 7, 8, and 10. And the 5 is down. So you've got the 7, 8, and 10 still up. Almost the entire back row, which is really unusual. An 8 box for Lasko. Again, thin on the head pin, but a good drop that time, and a spare opportunity for Dan Lasko.
So 3 and the 5. Looks like they've been pushed a little more closely together, which reduces the opportunities of chopping one off the other if you hit the object pin, which is the 3. We'll wait and see if the wood's going to settle down.
We had a winner in the bonus ball contest last week, so we start over with $10 in the bonus ball jackpot after this match, and see if we can match it up with a winner that will be drawn. That's a nice shot by Dan Lasko for the spare in the 4th frame, second mark of the string. We have $1,225 in the triple strike jackpot. If either of our bowlers can put 3 strikes back to back to back, $1,225 will be theirs. Here's Morgan with a spread eagle, -1.
A lot of bowling centers, Dick, have similar triple and 4-strike pools that league bowlers can put a quarter or $1 in every week. And very often the jackpots will get up to $4,000 and $5,000 because it is that difficult to put that many together.
10 box for Tom Morgan. He's gained back the 4 pins he was down in the first string, plus a couple. He's up against a Dan Lasko spare in the 4th frame.
Well, there's the 2, 4, 7, and some wood across all 3 pins.
He'll take the spare. He'll match the Lasko spare in the 4th frame. Both bowlers working on marks when we come back to Candlepin Stars and Strikes from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Don't go away. You are on WNDS TV. Dan Lasko getting ready to bowl on lane 34 at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. A 3-pin lead in the match for Tom Morgan right now, as both bowlers are working on spares in the 4th frame of the 2nd string. Lasko on the head pin, thin hit, 5-pin fill in the spare. Almost sent it over. The 6, 7, and 10 still standing. It'll be an 8 box for Dan Lasko. You were talking about the 10-pin style of Dan Lasko and the dressing put on the 10-pin lanes. Talk a little bit more about that, Michael, and how the lanes are cared for and prepared.
There's actually a machine that they use now that is, it's electric, and there's like wheels that go in the gutter, and then I guess it's kind of a tray or some kind of a covering that goes all the way down the lane or as far as you want it to go, and there are various oils and chemicals that are added, and you can essentially dictate how scoring will be depending on how far. If you want to start the dressing sooner, the ball starts spinning sooner, or you can start the dressing or the oil further down the lane so the ball has a chance to get some momentum before it starts skidding. Lots of different ways, but it's under very strict supervision of local bowling associations and standards set by the American Bowling Congress, the ABC. So it's not just do whatever you want. There are certain guidelines, and if, for instance, a bowler has a 300 game, a local association member has to come out and actually examine the lanes and sanction them and make sure that everything was in compliance.
Now, how about the Candlepin lanes as far as their treatment and preparation for bowling week after week?
I don't know as much about that because there really isn't a whole lot that really gets done. I think there's a minimal amount of dressing that goes on to protect the wood and probably for fire purposes, but I honestly couldn't tell you too much because there's not a whole lot of that goes on. And if any proprietors would like to let us know about that, certainly they would know more than we.
I will ask Ray between matches, or Sean Howard, Ray Simoneau, the proprietor at Leda Lanes, Sean Howard, the manager, about the care of the lanes.
The way you can tell that there's not really much, if any, oil, because when your ball comes back, it doesn't feel oily, whereas with 10-pin it does.
Backdoor spare for Tom Morgan, and he has 3 marks in a row. $50 in bonus money. He missed the object pin, but he got the wood behind it, which was frozen to it, to take down the lead pin and convert the spare. Now Lasko.
Our winner today will go on next week, face Phil Bergstrom, and our runner-up today will pocket $175.
Well, Lasko on the head pin, unable to convert the spare, though.
Falling further behind as Tom Morgan marks 5 out of 6 frames so far.
That's a nice 10 box. He pins well. It's his 3rd 10 box in this string. He finished the first string with 5 10s in a row. Had 6 10s overall, 3 9s and a spare. Doesn't leave a lot of pins standing. This will be a 7-10. That 7-pin is halfway in the gutter, isn't it? Does that look down?
It looks like it is.
It's halfway down.
He's got 6 pins on the deck plus the 2 standing. 8 of the 10 pins are still up there.
That 7-pin really moved a couple of inches.
This is the spray and pray shot. Really surprised that he didn't go more toward the middle.
The 7-pin is still standing.
And this is not an easy shot, by the way.
It's still standing. That 7-pin is nailed to the floor. Now Morgan working on 3 marks in a row. Little body English trying to set that wood up to cover that 5-pin. Will it? No, it'll go by it. Well, it's in pretty good shape. Now it's not.
No.
It backed up into an awkward position for Tom.
He's in a position to miss the 5-pin if he doesn't hit it quite right. Steps
now
up.
The tough shot. Looking back to brother Tom for some fatherly advice or brotherly advice. And he makes the shot.
Beauty.
Nice spare. 4 marks in a row for Tom Morgan. Watch it again. He played it well.
So that's $70, I think, if my math is correct, on bonus money this game after only 1 mark last game. And a screeching halt here with a 4 fill.
He's warmed up a little bit in the second string, hasn't he? That will be a 10 box. Again, a backdoor 10 for Tom Morgan. And a 28-pin lead in the match at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 marks through 8 boxes in the second string for Tom Morgan. Lasko in the pocket. Look what he has to show for it. The 5, 7, and 10 with a piece of wood.
Now that, if you ever leave that in 10-pin, it is the most embarrassing shot. It means there was nothing on your ball.
You just deflected to the side.
That's right. You don't see it very often, but it is so embarrassing. I know, I've done it.
Nine box for Lasko. He's at 97 through 9. Tom Morgan already has 120. Now Lasko in the 1-3, but not a solid shot and a very difficult leave. There you see a high triple, 486 for Dan.
He'll need about a 300 game to see that one today.
He's bowling without a lot of luck right now.
Just throw a nice ball. The key is to keep it on the right side of the head pin and mix them up.
And it will be an 8 box and a 105 second string for Dan Lasko. 206. And there's a strike for Tom Morgan. Watch it again as you see his family standing, rooting on Tom. We're not able to show you the replay at the moment, but Tom is ready to go again on the head pin. Busting him up again.
Yeah, he's thinking $1,200 or $1,225 with a couple of more.
Missed the spare. .149 second string for Tom Morgan as he's opened up some daylight. A 40-pin lead for Tom Morgan over Dan Lasko as we head to the third and final string of this match on Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV. We're back to Leda Lanes right after this. Tom Morgan ready to bowl, ready to lead off the third string of our match between Tom Morgan and Dan Lasko. Morgan with a 40-pin lead, 246 to 206, a 149 second string, opening some daylight for Tom Morgan as he bowls starting off the third string, and he starts off with a strike. And you see the happy family with a standing O in the front row. Watch it again. Tom buried this one right in the pocket. The 5-pin was the last to go, but there it goes. Back to live action. Tom looking for 2 in a row. Won't get 2 in a row, but has another spare opportunity. Received a nice letter from Mrs. Stuart Gauss of Marblehead, Massachusetts. We'll tell you about it after Tom bowls this next ball, as he looks for back-to-back marks to start the third string, and he's got it. 2 marks in a row for Tom Morgan starting off the third string. Mrs. Gauss writes, 10 years ago, her husband and she were on a bus tour of Yugoslavia. When they came out of the hotel in Plitvik to get on the bus to go to the next town, they saw a large building with a sign, Kegling. As Dan Lasko looks for an equalizer, or at least to stay close to match Tom Morgan. 9-pin drop. They were whisked away. They had no chance to play, as Lasko misses the spare or even investigate. Does anyone in the audience know what the Yugoslav system of bowling would be? I cannot answer that, Michael. Can you?
I'm drawing a blank on that one myself.
And then she goes on to say that we were talking about bowling, the activity returning to popularity. The Marblehead Girl Scouts had their 13th annual parent-daughter bowling as Dan Lasko finally converts.
That could have been a double. His last hit was exactly the same, but the 4-pin didn't go down. As you'll see, it's the last one to go this time. 4-pin, last one down.
So Dan now with a strike. Morgan working on 2 marks. The 5-pin still stands. The Marblehead Girl Scouts had their annual parent-daughter bowling day. About 80 girls and adults took over the Salem lanes for 2 hours. It was noisy and chaotic, but a very happy time, which is great to hear. Morgan with the 3 marks in a row. $50 more in bonus money for Tom Morgan.
I love Marblehead, but if you're not familiar with the area and you ever find yourself in the middle of the town, you will not find your way out of Marblehead without a map.
So again, thanks to Mrs. Stewart Gauss of Marblehead for that nice note. Morgan working on 3 marks in a row.
It's actually not bad to get lost to Marblehead because it's such a pretty community.
Playing the wood. Look at that shot by Tom Morgan. 4 marks in a row for Tom. Another $20. Watch it again. Watch him play the wood perfectly.
A surgeon's touch on that one.
He has warmed up after that 97 first string. Lasko tries to fill his strike. Misses the head pin. An uphill battle now for Dan Lasko.
How's he feeling about now?
Frustrated, I guess, would be the word.
His first appearance on WNDS. He'll be back. Of course, this match isn't over. We have seen larger margins.
Will that
evaporate.
pin go? It will not. Well, it stands to be about a 65-pin lead for Tom, unless Dan can mark in this frame. Well, let's watch the pins. They continue to fall. He'll have a spare opportunity here with the wood set up the way it is, but he must hit the head pin.
I think he'd rather have the 2-pin back, honestly.
I think the wood's set up okay if he hits the head pin. He missed the head pin, hit it 2 straight on. So he'll be open in the 4th frame. It'll be a 10 box for Lasko. A 62-pin lead for Tom Morgan. 6 boxes remain. We continue from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire on Candlepin Stars and Strikes on WNDS TV. Tom Morgan will step to the line, working on 4 marks in a row.
What's he made, about $140 today, I think, in bonus money?
He's got $140 right on the money. And he's in the pocket, breaks up the split, and has an opportunity for another $20. Missed it. Knew it when it left his hand. I think you heard him yell, "Oh no," as soon as it left his hand. Bonus money comes to an end. 84.5. Thanks to Fred Fairbank of Hull, Massachusetts, for jotting a note to us. Fred adds to our list of terms if someone were to bowl and leave the 7, 8, 9, and 10, the entire back row standing. Fred points out that would be called the picket fence.
Thank you, Fred.
Morgan open for the 2 boxes in the 5th and 6th frame. And Dan Lasko needs to mark. I think that's somewhat of an understatement.
Need to read a few lines here from a card I got from Tony Zernicke, who's been absent for the last several tapings. The last few months you haven't seen him in the audience. He used to run the WCBC for at least 25 years. Had a fall back a few months ago. It turned out to snowball into something worse for him. Had to go in for some surgery back in February, and as of this moment, he's recovering nicely, but unable to drive. So I would highly encourage anybody to send a card. Your best wishes to Tony Zernicke. He did want me to thank everybody who did send well wishes after we mentioned it several shows ago. And we really do wish him well and hope he can be here for the Tournament of Champions, which will be taping on April 13th.
You have a mailing address for Tony?
Yes, I will. I don't think Tony would mind.
Lasko with a half Worcester, now trying to
It's Tony Zernicke.
pin as best he can.
Address is 52 Hillside Avenue. Hillside Avenue in Webster, Massachusetts, 01570. Zernicke, C-Z-E-R-N-I-C-K-I. Best wishes, Tony.
7 box for Dan Lasko. He's at 60. And a 73 pin lead now for Tom Morgan with 4 boxes remaining. Tom will apparently climb the ladder another notch. Waiting in the wings, second seeded Phil Bergstrom from Worcester.
Tommy cooling off just a bit after starting this string with 4 consecutive marks, followed by a 10, a 9, and another 9.
Tom Morgan, another mark on the board. There's Dan Lasko burying one in the pocket and getting a strike.
That was a nice shot. Flush in the 1-3 pocket, the 10 pin, the last to go. That looked like a 10 pin strike.
That's a pocket shot too, and another spare opportunity. And 2 marks in a row for Dan Lasko. As he warms up, it'll be a little bit too late for Dan, as Tom has a comfortable cushion heading into the final 2 boxes.
But he could win a little bonus money, perhaps, to soften the sting of defeat.
Morgan puts a 7 in the spare. Don't know if we've mentioned that Tom is a machinist with GE and Lynn and has been there for some 18 years, is married to Linda, has children Jamie 15 and Kelly 13.
They're here today.
Chris Bovair going down to remove the pin that was out of bounds. Tom missed the spare. And he'll take a 9 box. Bowling out the string, so to speak, to coin a phrase.
Crowd is moaning. Tom took the pin that Chris Bovair brought back and fired it down the lane and missed the 1 pin that was standing.
Great crowd on hand for this match, standing several deep as Tom Morgan throws a pocket shot and leaves 1 standing. The crowd arrived early for our taping. We begin taping around 10 o'clock in the morning. The first arrivals were on the scene at Leda Lanes here this morning at 7:30 this morning.
I assume you weren't here to see that.
I was not, but I did ask when I got here who was first. And a couple of people. 7:30. They were here before Sean Howard opened the doors. A spare in the final box for Tom Morgan. For those of you who will be interested in attending our Tournament of Champions taping, which will be on what day, Michael?
March 13th.
On the 13th of March, a Tuesday. We will begin at 9 o'clock in the morning with 5 matches to tape that day. April, what did I say? April 13th.
April 13th. Yeah.
April 13th. $143 for Tom and a $390 triple.
It's 144.
I cheated him out of a pin.
390 triple for Tom.
2 pins better than last week.
I'll see if we can give some bonus money to Dan Lasko. Yes, we can. 3 marks in a row for Dan and $50 in bonus money.
So we'll add that to his $175 prize.
And hopefully give him a few bucks more, as he has a chance for $20 more if he can convert this. He will not. He is at 120. And he will finish at 121 for Dan Lasko. A 327 triple, a 63-pin win for Tom Morgan. We'll come back to meet our bowlers in a moment as we continue with Candlepin Stars and Strikes from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire on WNDS TV. Final score was 390 to 327. Tom Morgan defeats Dan Lasko. For Dan Lasko, a check for $175, $50 in bonus money as well. Took a little while for the hook to get acclimated to the lane.
Yeah, I left the door open the first string. I missed 2 9-drops back to back. Make those, it may be a different game.
Well, congratulations for making it to the roll-off, and we'll see you again soon. Dan Lasko, our runner-up. Now Tom Morgan will roll the ball. We'll try to match him up with a bonus ball contest winner. A deuce. Let's see. This is Muriel Plummer of Londonderry. Muriel picked 8. 8 pins still standing, but that's not quite how it works. So a consolation prize for Muriel and 10 strings of bowling to Marcia Greeno of Ipswich, Massachusetts. Second card drawn out of the bin. A 390 this week, 388 last week. What do we get next week?
Who knows? I'm an adventure up here. 97, 140. I don't know what to expect, so I couldn't even make a guess.
Well, Tom Morgan will be back next week to take on Phil Bergstrom from Worcester, Massachusetts. Congratulations, Tom. We'll see you next week.
Bye, Tom.
Tom also had $140 in bonus money that he was a winner this afternoon. So it sets up another match climbing the ladder next week.
Yeah, Phil Bergstrom, 52 years old from Worcester, so it should be a good time. Hope you'll join us for week 3 of Tom Morgan.
And that'll do it from this end, from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. For Mike Moran and our entire WNDS TV 50 crew, thanks for watching Candlepin Stars and Strikes. I'm Dick Lutz. We'll see you next time in our next match from Leda Lanes in Nashua. So long, everyone.